Yeah, the other big kind of thing I was wanting to talk about was just kind of discussing MMOs in general, and kind of the state of things at the moment. You know, I've got a buddy who gets super excited for just about every MMO that comes out, and I feel him because, you know, MMOs have always been kind of the big thing that I like. You know, it's really the main genre I play. And it's just because it is such a wide, expansive genre. Like, it really tries to immerse you. A good MMO does. But, yeah, as I was saying, the other big thing, I kind of just kind of a general topic discussion was, you know, will there ever be another good MMO? Like I said, I was talking with my buddy about this, and he gets so excited for every MMO, and I'm like, dude, you're not gonna like it. It's gonna last for like 2 months, and then you're gonna quit because it's garbage. And sure enough, he spends a lot of money on it right up front, and then drops it after about 2 weeks. The only one he's stuck with recently, and I'm kind of impressed with it, is Lost Ark. And I mean, I admit I kind of like Lost Ark. I streamed it a couple times here, but with all the bugs and how the battle system worked and all of that, it was just too much. I couldn't keep it up. But he likes it, and you know, good for him. As long as you're having fun, by all means. But you know, there's been a couple big threads that I've been reading lately. You know, asking if there's going to be another big MMO. You know, recently we've had or Lost World, not Lost Ark. He's big into New World. Lost Ark we tried together for 2 weeks and gave that up. New World is the one he likes, and I'm kind of the opinion that there probably won't be. Yeah, it's always a big debate. You know, people wondering about Star Citizen and Albion Online and all of these. BDO, yeah. Purge so many characters, yeah. BDO is kind of weird, and I was going to kind of bring that one up too, because that's the other big MMO I play. But, you know, it kind of comes down to a couple things. I think the big one, of course, is budget. And then, obviously, you know, you're going up against Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft. And, you know, obviously World of Warcraft isn't what it used to be, but it's pretty hard to deny that it's still one of the bigger players in the game, right? But, you know, as much as I would like to see MMOs make a comeback, I just don't think it's possible because of the budget involved. You know, Warcraft and Final Fantasy, they always had that name recognition behind them. You know, World of Warcraft got big because it's a Blizzard game, and when it came out, Blizzard was at their peak. So obviously they were going to put a lot of assets and resources to it, and make it the biggest thing that they could. And then Final Fantasy, I mean, it's got that Final Fantasy name to it. And Square Enix will do anything they can not to tarnish that name. So yeah. But these other games coming out, you know, they just don't have the budget to do everything that, you know, I guess people would call them theme park MMOs would do. You know, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, you can kind of do whatever you want. They have a little bit of everything. They got PvP, they got the raiding, they got the big immersive world crafting, all of this other stuff. And they do it all pretty well on the whole, right? But other games just, they don't have the budget to do it on the same scale. You know, I remember playing Terra, I played Neverwinter Online, I played a lot of stuff. What's really interesting is that, you know, after World of Warcraft came out, there were a ton of WoW lights. You know, they were WoW copycats, right? And some of them actually did things probably better than WoW, but they were never able to do everything on the same scale of WoW, and that is eventually why I think a lot of them failed. You know, Neverwinter Online, when that came out, it had one of the coolest systems I've ever seen in the game. You know, the dungeons were good, but it had the Foundry system, which was player-made content. Players could make their own quests and make their own dungeons, and had its own level and world editor built into it. And it was by far one of the coolest things I have ever seen in an MMO. way better than anything that I've seen in either WoW or Final Fantasy. But that was really about it. Like the PvP was jank. The crafting was okay, but it wasn't anything to write home about. But it had that one thing that was, you know, really cool. And there's a lot of MMOs like that. You know, there's some games that might do PvP better than World of Warcraft, or you know, story-wise. You know, I think it's pretty safe to say that Final Fantasy is probably the best story that's ever been in an MMO. But the Secret World was really cool too, and it had probably one of the most unique questing systems I have ever seen in a video game, and it makes me really sad that it's not as big as it used to be, because like the investigation missions were so cool, and the dungeons themselves were really cool too. You know, if you've never played the Secret World, like the investigation missions had you looking up clues from real life stuff. And it had a built-in web browser built into the game. So like you'd be on an investigation mission, and you had to find a clue to find a painting, but you didn't know what painting it was. So the clue would lead you essentially to... you would have to go up and search up the clues through this in-game browser to find information about these real-life paintings from like the Renaissance or whatever, or, you know, from the Founding Fathers and the Declaration of Independence and all this other stuff. And that would lead you to where you needed to go in-game. It was so cool, man. But, you know, it didn't have everything else. It had PvP, but it was awful. Dungeons were good, but the world was kind of, you know, kind of lifeless. Outside of the first zone, anyways. First zone was kind of cool, I guess. And that seems to be the big issue with most MMOs, is they can only do that one thing, one or two things really, really well. And after that, there's just nothing to keep people going. So even though Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft, you know, might do some things that are only mediocre compared to other MMOs, the fact that they do it all at a pretty decent level, like nothing they have in those games is completely awful. Or, well, in Warcraft's case, used to not be completely awful, I guess. You know, they did it at a good enough level, and they had enough of everything that's why people kept playing back, you know, coming back. And I don't see another MMO doing that anytime soon. Maybe when Riot finishes their MMO, that one I am kind of curious about, because of any game company out there right now that has the potential to make a genuinely huge MMO on the scale of Warcraft or Final Fantasy, would be Riot, you know, and they are making it based off the League universe or whatever they call it. So we'll have to see how that goes, but there's really not been a whole lot of information about it. BDO was always interesting to me. In terms of combat, best combat of any MMO, hands down. I love the combat in BDO. And the immersive world, the fact that it is all one big world, and setting up your trade routes, like getting on a horse and going from one city to another to trade items, it really immerses you in a way that not a whole lot of MMOs do. And it is a game that I do go back and play a couple times a year usually, because I get that itch of just like wanting to be a medieval trucker, you know? And there's really not a whole lot of other games like it. But then obviously you got the downsides with BDO that it's very much a Korean MMO, so if you are someone that wants to like min-max stuff, it's awful trying to do it. You'll reach a point where you're just, you know, smushing a billion small items into one big item, hoping it'll upgrade, and those upgrade chances are super small, so good luck. So usually once I reach that point, I usually put it back down again, right? And obviously there's no dungeons or raids to speak of, unless they've added some in the last couple patches. So yeah, I mean, BDO is definitely one of the prettiest MMOs out there. and very unique, I would say. But it's I wouldn't say that it's quite on the scale of Final Fantasy and WoW, but it does offer something different that is still pretty fun. The different jobs are kind of weird. But once I got the hang of like, oh, well, I need my Shaolin or whatever the little tiny kid race is called. I need them to be a Shy. Yeah, a Shy. Those are your crafters. And once you kind of understand like how the system of switching back and forth for your crafting items and crafting mats and stuff worked, it wasn't so bad. You know, I was mostly able to get through most of it with just 3 characters maybe. Yeah, no subscription. That was a pretty big reason for me playing it. And who knows, because New World is not a subscription, I might go back and play that again one day. Not super likely, but I mean, I had enough fun with it that, you know, I bought it and now it's mine. I don't have to pay a subscription, so there's nothing keeping me from going back at some point. Yeah. Probably one of my favorites was Arcage. Believe it or not. When Arcage first came out, I mean, way back, like beta stages, before they did the Arcage Unleashed or whatever, Arcage was wild. It is probably some of the most fun that I've ever had in an MMO. But it was so jank. It was so jank. And that's part of why it was so fun. But I've never played another MMO like Arcage that really made me feel like a medieval trucker, you know? You know, the way their housing system worked, it worked kind of like Final Fantasy's original housing system did, where it was first come, first serve. Whoever could touch the placard first gets it. But what was unique with Arcage is that none of it was instant. So it was just out in the world. So if you were on a server, you would be driving by people's houses and everything, and it was really cool. So yeah, you would actually be driving through neighborhoods and having fun and setting up trade routes to, you know, actually take your cart across the country in real time. It was probably one of the more immersive MMOs in terms of actually feeling like I was part of the world that I've ever played. Yeah, WoW, for as big as that was growing up, do one more level. For as big as it was growing up, I still don't feel like it's quite as immersive as some of these other MMOs. You know, it's got the big world, but so much of it, when you go back and actually look at it, is so empty. And a lot of it is just, like, oh, hey, we added a color filter to this zone. Like, okay. I never really felt like I wanted to walk from one end of the continent to the other. Even when I was on an RP server and trying to go around adventuring, you know, it wasn't quite that immersive to me. For me, WoW, the immersiveness came from the community. And Final Fantasy is definitely from the community. Final Fantasy, the actual world itself doesn't feel super immersive because it's all teleports, it's loading screens, that kind of thing. It feels very lived in, but it's really the community that makes it so immersive. The actual world and the way it's built is not. Arcage, the way the world was built itself, felt like going on an adventure in a way that that a whole lot of MMOs haven't done. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, Arcage had a lot of people, a lot of hackers. People like building plots of land underneath the world and planting trees upside down so they could basically farm it infinitely. You know, that kind of hacking. I remember once, so it was a PvP-based game, right? And ship battles were a pretty big part of it. And one of the cool things with ships, at least in the early game, I don't know if you can do it now, but you could use your harpoon on the ship and actually use your harpoon to drag your ship across dry land and all kinds of stuff. It was so janky. It was so janky. But what was really fun was you could steal people's ships. And I remember one time I stole some dude's ship and then started using the harpoon to scale a vertical cliff face up to a castle. And like, the dude couldn't catch up. Like, every time he would try and catch up to me to knock me off the wheel to try and get his ship back, he couldn't. He was always lower in altitude than I was. So he would just have to float back down on his glider and then teleport back up to the ship where he would immediately fall back down again. It was a lot of fun, man. I can't remember just any other MMO that just had as much wild and weird shit as Arcade did. But they patched out a lot of that kind of stuff, and yeah, it's all hackers nowadays, and just not as good from what I understand. You have to have a subscription if you want a house there, and I'm not paying for that. But I mean, there's been other good MMOs out there in their own small ways. But yeah, aside from Riot's MMO, you know, I really don't know if we're going to see another MMO on the scale of Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft ever again. You know, especially, you know, Terra officially shut down, and I think we're going to start seeing a lot more intermittence mode. And yeah, I would like to see more MMOs. Again, that's my favorite genre, but it's just not what it used to be. But yeah, you know, in terms of MMOs, the other big one that I'm kind of looking forward to is Palia. It's supposed to be just a nice, chill, like, almost like a farming sim. I don't know too much about it. I know it's in an alpha or a beta right now, and it just seems cute, and it seems like the big kind of open world that I'm interested in. We'll just have to see how it comes out. I'm signed up for the beta, but I don't know when they're going to be sending invites out. That'll probably be the next big one that I want to try out. Just something different, something chill. Might make for, you know, how a lot of Minecraft streams end up being kind of like the Zaxxodon streams, just kind of chilling and chatting. I like what we're doing now. It feels like it might be a nice game for that kind of, you know, for that kind of atmosphere. But yeah, it would just be nice to have another one. You know, play during FF's downtime. You know, that'll always be my main game, barring just really weird circumstances. But, you know, there's always downtime. Until 6.2 comes out, I don't really have a whole lot I can do in the game right now. So yeah. That Rust was like perfect PvP open world, but I just couldn't... Yeah. I haven't tried any of the, like, the big survival games. I have Ark in a couple of my playlists, but I've never played it. I kind of want to give it a go. It seems interesting, and a lot of the VTubers I like play it. But yeah, I'm just not a big... Hey, there we go. Hey, took a while, but we got him down. You know, my big thing is I'm not a big PvPer. I'm more like crafting and trading. I would love to have another MMO like Arcade's trading system. Like I said, I want to be a medieval trucker. And I don't mean teleport and set up trade routes on a map and let everything automate. Like, put me in a coach, put me in a cart, and let me drive across the world and make lots of money. Like, that's what I like, right? So I've never been big into PvP, and that's why my buddy has so much trouble trying to find good games. Is he's really competitive. He really likes the PvP stuff, and I think that's why he still likes New World quite a bit. And I'm just not that competitive anymore. I like the chill games nowadays. unless it's Crystal and Conflict, then maybe.